Hi, this is Sal Abruscato of the American Doom Gothic metal band A Pale Horse Named Death, and you are listening to The Bloodshed with Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International, and I'd like to congratulate Metal Messiah Radio with its 13th anniversary.
Sal, I want to thank you very much for taking time out for this interview, and believe me, it's a very great pleasure to have you here, and I want to welcome you to the Metal Bloodshed with the Vampire on Metal Messiah Radio International.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here too.
You're very welcome. Sal Abruscato, a name that don't need no kind of introduction whatsoever. A very famous and talented musician born in Brooklyn, New York, and who was part of bands like Toximia,
yes.
Type of Negative, Life of Agony, Supermassive, My Mortality, Repulsion, to say some. Yeah, what are the things, Sal, that have triggered you or inspired you to become a metal musician? And how was the metal scene back then, at least in your area in New York?
Well, to go back to the metal scene in New York, it was way better. I don't think there's much of a metal scene nowadays. I don't live in New York or Brooklyn in the city anymore, but back in the 80s, it was just really awesome. There was so many cool places to go see bands. And I think it was a huge inspiration to the bands that later developed, like Type O Negative and Life of Agony. And early 90s, it was just a one-of-a-kind scene. You know, Brooklyn was like the Seattle of the East Coast back then. And it was definitely a very awesome time that I highly doubt will ever be relived or happen again in today's climate and era. As far as what inspired me, I think I was like 10 years old. I got exposed to like Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, and cool bands like that. I got hooked. And I wanted to originally get a guitar, and I didn't get an electric guitar, I guess, for whatever reason. But then I finally convinced my parents to get me this cheap little drum set. So I started playing drums. By the time I was 11, I had this drum set, and it was a way for me to find some kind of identity and stand out, especially I was the son of immigrants. So my parents didn't really understand this crazy thing that I wanted to do. I was a very awkward kid. I had some friends, but I was also bullied on, and I didn't really fit in a lot of places. So when I was playing drums, though, I felt like I belonged to something in my own world. And I always enjoyed just practicing every day. I actually used to cut school to just come home and practice more. It was something that made me feel like I could fit in society by being on the other side of the stage.
But the good thing about it is that at least you got the support from your parents.
Yes and no. They thought it was just going to be a phase where I was just going to play for maybe a little while and then stop. Once I started playing shows and being in bands, it kind of started becoming a little bit of a problem. My father had a business and wanted me to always work for him. He made me work at a very young age. So in his eyes, I was supposed to spend every free moment I had working for him. So when I started saying, well, no, I can't work, I'm going to go play a show in a heavy metal band, like Toximia was one of the first bands that I was in that was actually doing some shows, and we had an independent record out in 1986, and it started becoming an obstacle where it was becoming a threat, where it was taking me away. And I found that the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it, and my goal was I wanted to go on tour because it was my way of getting out. So they were supportive, but they actually didn't expect it to turn into a Pandora box a few years later where this is what I wanted to do, this is what I wanted to be. I started growing my hair long, I started getting tattoos, and it just became this nightmare that they wish they never bought me this drum set in the end of the day. So
you together with Peter Steele, Josh Silver, and Kenny Higley formed one of the best gothic doom metal band ever, Type of Negative, in 1990, where you recorded 3 albums with the band Slow, Deep, and Hard in 1991, The Origin of the Feces, Not Live at Brighton Beach in 1992, and Blood Kisses in 1993. I mean, very great albums that has brought up very great singles like Unsuccessfully Copying with The Natural Beauty of Infidelity, Black Number 1, Little Miss Scare Off, Christian Woman, to say some, Bloody Kisses, A Death in a Family, Are You Afraid, and Blood and Fire. I mean, just to mention some. How was those years being part of Type of Negative and working together with no other than Mr. Peter Steele?
It was a lot of of fun. There was a lot of craziness. We didn't exactly know what was going to happen and how monumental this music was going to become. I met Peter when I was literally about 14 years old. I was taking drum lessons from his drummer when he had Carnivore, which was a band that he had prior to Typo Negative. So I was like this younger kid hanging out with them, and I was going to their rehearsals, and I was building my friendship with all those guys. Then I started going to the shows with them and helping them out, as a roadie. And so I already had like sort of a friendship repertoire already established with Peter. So when Carnivore broke up, I went over to his house in 1989 and just asked him, hey, do you want to get together and jam? You want to play? Because I knew he wasn't doing anything anymore. And that was like the beginning of the idea that he wanted to create this new kind of band that had keyboards and a lot of sounds and samples. And so to me, he was just this, awesome musician from Brooklyn that was a really cool guy and was always really nice to me. And he was a friend. And that's really what it was like. We had no idea, or I had no idea, and I don't think Peter had any idea that Bloody Kisses was going to then later on become such a big deal. And then as the band progressed, even after I wasn't in the band anymore, that it was going to become such a big thing, and that he was going to get so much attention that he didn't expect. He was very awkward himself too, so he didn't always handle all that really well. I remember playing early the shows in the beginning, and we had some kids come, but a lot of people, they were just looking at us like, who the hell are these guys? What are they doing? It was so raw and so new that today, now everyone looks back at the band as some kind of incredible, monumental achievement. But back then, we were just four guys that would go out every Friday night and get drunk in the city, and then we would go play a show. We'd practice every week. It was like a ritual thing for us. We enjoyed playing together as far as a band and going out and having fun, and that's all it was. We didn't know it was going to go any. It was great. I learned a lot from him. He's the reason why I started wanting to learn how to write songs, and he was the reason why I picked up a guitar and a bass and started playing around at home. So he was actually very influential on me as far as how he did things.
Okay, but Sal, tell me, the reason that you drop out the band, and after that, did you keep that great relationship with Peter?
Not until later on. There was a bunch of years where I didn't talk to him, and he didn't talk to me. And then later on, we started becoming, friends again. The year that I was recording the first A Pale Horse Named Death album, we started talking a lot more, me and him, and he was calling me quite often. And I was talking to him up to 2 weeks before he died, because he wanted to start another band with me. And he wanted to do like all the early Typo stuff, do the Carnivore material, and he wanted to do like a new version of Carnivore. And he was talking to me, and we had settled our differences as far as like what we fought about a long time ago. And so he had some closure. I don't know. It almost seemed like he knew something was going to happen to him, because he was apologetic about a few things with me. And it was very, very strange time. And then I went to Europe to do a couple of shows with Life of Agony, and I came home, and then I got a phone call that he passed away, and I couldn't believe it, because I was like, I just spoke to him.
But Saul, the last time that you had this conversation with Peter, he never told you that he was feeling sick or whatever?
No, he did pass away of a sickness. He passed away from septicemia, which is when you have a hole in your stomach. And when you have like a really bad ulcer, like a hole in your stomach, and all the acid, your body gets poisoned. And because he wasn't getting checked out by a doctor, he was obviously very bad with getting himself taken care of, where they could have maybe saw this problem and they could have prevented it. His body got so poisoned that it just literally just shut down. And when he realized how severe the situation was, it was already too late, because when the ambulance came, he died while they were trying to take him out. So even though he had like his other battles of addiction and things like that, he was actually clean and sober over 10 months when he passed away. So it had nothing to do with drugs, but we're probably dealing with the damage that was done from alcohol and drugs. And so even though he stopped, it was late. And I think that's why he had caused a hole in his stomach. It might have been from the excessive drinking, and it was a sad way to go.
Did you get to go to his funeral?
Absolutely. I was in the procession. I was there for all 4 days, all the way till they buried him.
When we heard the news, we was all very shocked. And it took us, at least me, it took me like years to really understand that that's true, that he passed away.
Yeah, my wife was with me, and I went up to the casket, and I literally touched his shoulder and felt him looking at him like he was really dead. And, it was a sad time to see someone, especially anyone that's young. He was only 48, so.
Yeah, yes. After all this happening and things tragic, in 2011, Sal, you went over and formed the band A Pale Horse Named Death, where you took up the frontman duties. Among the years, great musician has been part of the band like Matt Brown, Eric Morgan, Bobby Hambel, Dave Bizzigitti, Tom Spano, Johnny Kelly, among others. Sal, how did you decide to form the band, and why has you moved from drummer to become the band's guitarist and vocalist?
I started writing and came up with a concept in 2009, and it originally was kind of meant to be just like a studio project because I play all the instruments on the record. So it was originally intended as a studio project. And so my friend Matt Brown, he heard the material, he thought it was really good, and he said we should do something with this. So we figured, okay, let's make a studio album project. Let's not worry about band members. Let's not worry about anybody. And so we made this record like, basically like 9 Inch Nails style. It was just me and him. We had Bobby Hambel do a guest appearance and do some guitar solos on that first recording. And Matt Brown did guitar solos, and I played all the other instruments. And I didn't originally plan on going like being a real band. And so then one thing led to another where SPV was interested in releasing this record. So they released it. And then all of a sudden I was by an agent that I was working with at the time said, hey, do you want to play a show? I'm like, what do you mean play a show? He's like, well, if you want, you could do one show in New Jersey, open up a Monster Magnet.
Okay.
I'm like, open up a Monster Magnet? I said, I don't even have a band. And I said, when is the show? He said, oh, it's 6 weeks from now. I'm like, 6 weeks? And so I literally just like freaked out. I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then I called up. I had recruited at that time Johnny Kelly and Eric and Bobby Hambel and Matt Brown. And we did our first show. I was really nervous. I wasn't really looking to be in front of people singing. Again, this was intended to be a studio project, but one thing led to another. I mean, I did the show. It was pretty good. It was obvious I was nervous, but it was pretty good. I had to get my feet wet. And then after that, the label, when they were getting ready to release the album, they started scheduling these interviews, and the press started really liked the record, and it just one thing led to another. That's when that summer I went and did I think we did like about 2 weeks in Europe for the first time ever, and it was my first time going on tour as a guitarist singer. And it kind of grew from there. Yeah, it was August of 2011 was the first 2-week tour.
Wow.
And we all went there and we played some shows and festivals, which was very cool. And I didn't expect the magazines and the journals, I didn't expect them to like this music that much. But they liked it. And they kept on associating it with Alice in Chains and this and a little bit of Typo and then this and that. I'm like, whatever you say. So it kind of grew from there. And then I was obligated, and then we did a second record.
Tell not to go too fast, but to go back, I mean, doing the show that you did in the U.S., then this tour that you didn't even expect it to Europe. At that time, you're touring, promoting, and Hell Will Follow Me then.
Yes, we were promoting the And Hell Will Follow Me album.
To go forward now, if you don't mind, Sal, please present us the band current lineup.
At the current moment, which we barely even played any rehearsals, it's Eddie Heedles on guitar, Joe Taylor on guitar, myself on guitar. Currently at the moment, Oddie McLaughlin on bass, and Chris Hamilton on drums. Because of the pandemic, we haven't really played.
Okay, but Sal, tell me, the band released, as we talk, the debut album And Hell Will Follow Me in 2011, followed by the 2013 Lay My Soul to Waste, and the band's third album, When the World Becomes Undone. Wow, what a great album. Came out in January 18, 2019. And all these albums were also responsible for great singles as Die Alone, As Black As My Heart, Fell In My Hole, Cold Dark Morning, When the World Becomes Undone, Love the Ones You Hate, to mention some. Looking back, since the debut 2011 album up to the 2019 one, do you believe all the albums has received all the support the band wanted?
I think the first two albums got a lot of support. The third album got support as well. while, but I think the industry is so saturated. There's so many records and bands and so much competition. I think we got a lot of support from the fans, though, and we did do like 4 tours for When the World Becomes Undone. I just think that from between the time that Lay My Soul to Waste came out, there was like a 6-year gap between that record and the third record. I think it was almost like we had to like rebuild a little bit again because we were gone for a little while.
Wait, that 6 years gap.
I think we did some festivals and touring in 2014, and then I got called back to go do some shows with Life of Agony. So when I got called to do shows with them, I thought there were just going to be some shows. And then it turned into with them like, oh, we want to do a record. So it was like, oh, well, we're going to do a record. So that took a few years of time to do. And then they kept on booking tours. And there was also, and granted, at that time I was a full-time musician. I needed to make some money at the same time. So I kept doing a lot of shows with Life of Agony. And then I just prepared myself mentally to record their record. And which I did a lot of writing on that record, Place Where There's No More Pain. So that took up a good chunk of time. It basically took up, even though Lay My Soul to Waste came out in 2013, Pale Horse Named Death was active until late 2014. So then 2015, 16, and 17, those 3 years I was busy with Life of Agony, basically, with this record. Then I decided I was going to back out and leave after everything was all done. And so I left Life of Agony in late 2017, and that's when I announced the reactivation of A Pale Horse Named Death, because I was getting so many letters from fans that I wanted to go back to doing the heavier, darker, doomier music that I like to do, and I didn't want to base everything about money, so I wanted to just do the music I wanted to do. And that's when I started working and getting everything to go with making another record with A Pale Horse Named Death.
Sal, talking about going back to what you really love, what you live for. I mean, but how was the band evolution throughout the years? I mean, comparing since the debut album you guys have released in 2011, I'm talking about And Hell Will Follow Me, up to When the World Becomes Undone in 2019. That era, how was the band evolution?
The evolution was, by the time we got to When the World Becomes Undone, Matt Brown was busy with other things and wanted to kind of like not, be involved with the Pale Horse Named Death anymore. So he was my production partner. So it was always me and him that made the records. So we did the first 2 records together, and we're still friends, and I actually talked to him last week, but he needed to do some other things in life and do some soul searching. So he backed out. At the same time, the evolution was that by the time we did the second record, Lay My Soul to Waste, that was when Eddie Heedles came into the band and replaced the guitar solo work. He replaced Bobby Hambel. So that was some of the changes that happened between the second record and the third record as far as evolution. Then the third album came along where I ended up co-producing and mixing it with Eric Morgan on the third record. And so that was a little bit of a change.
If I'm not wrong, you recruited Joe William Taylor, who used to play also for Doro at the time, right?
Yes, I'm getting to that. So when Matt Brown left, he got replaced by Eddie knew Joe Taylor. And Joe Taylor happened to be back in America because he lived in Germany for like eight or 9 years. And he was touring and playing guitar for Lita Ford. Then he went and spent like 8 years in Germany with Doro. And he basically toured the world, did everything. He worked nonstop with her. So when he came into A Pale Horse Named Death, he was an incredible addition because he is a phenomenal guitarist. Phenomenal. And so that was the evolutionary change where it was Eddie Heedles, Joe William Taylor, Eric Morgan, and Johnny Kelly and myself on When the World Becomes Undone. That was the change. So that was where the difference from the second to the third album.
My blood, it runs
Sal, the band's new album titled Infernum in Terra, the upcoming album from the band led by Type O Negative and Life of Agony founding member Sal Abruscato, is the follow-up to the 2019 When the World Becomes Undone, and is scheduled to be released this coming September 24, 2021 via Long Branch Records. After the debut album being released independently, followed by the second album through Steam Hammer, and this being the band's second full-length album to be released through this German Long Branch Record SPV. How did you get to work with the German label Long Branch Record SPV for When the World Becomes Undone? How are the deal now this time for this new album, Infernum in Terra?
It's the same people. You know, I met Manuel, my current A&R manager now. I met him during Lay My Soul to Waste, because at the end of the day, all these labels, they're all underneath SPV Entertainment. So the first and second record was SPV Steam Hammer, which is the same people as, you know, and then Long Branch, when it was time to do the third album, I re-signed a contract and they said, well, we're going to do it under this other branch of SPV. I was like, okay, fine. It was all the same people I was dealing with. So technically, all four albums, like since 2010, my career with A Pale Horse Named Death has been with SPV Records in Germany.
So, I mean, that's nothing new, but I mean, at least you get a better deal.
Yeah, no, I enjoy working with them. You know, it is what it is. In this day and age, it is extremely difficult for record companies to even survive and make a little bit of money to stay open as a business, okay? Because it's not like the old days. The old days, record companies made a lot of money. Nowadays, record companies don't really, there's not a lot of them anymore, because you have a lot of people making their own records and releasing them on iTunes, and it's a tough business now for even the record labels. So to have this good relationship with SPV and the people over there, they've always been very nice to me. They've always admired the band's work. They've always admired my music, and they've always been there for me, and they've always done a pretty good job of getting the record out and releasing it and scheduling all the press and everything. So I'm a type of person that's like, you know, I mean, if everything is going pretty good, I don't know if I want to go look around for something else, because again, this is a labor of love, and this is a labor of love for a lot of people at the record companies too, because they're not making a lot of money these days because of all the MP3 and downloads, and it's changed very much from when I started in 1990.
They always say, why change a winning horse?
Yeah.
And you feel good with them. They don't, you know, pressurize you or anything.
No, not at all. Not actually. They were surprised that I was ready, that I wanted to give them another record with Infernum in Terra. They were like, I was like, listen, I'm working on this record. You know, when would you like to have it? And they were like, well, if you give it to us in April, delivery, great. You know, we could put it out sometime in the end of summer, early fall. So that's what I did. In fact, you know, I already have my mind. I want to spend the winter working on more music, and I would like to start recording and getting another record going, just because, you know, life is short, and I just want to make as many records as I can in my spare time.
Okay, talking about this great new album, yes, Infernum in Terra, the band have released their new single, Believe in Something, You Are Lost. That was last May 27. The new track is the first offering from the band's upcoming studio album, Infernum in Terra, with the second single, Shards of Glass, saw the light on July 9th, followed by the third single you guys have released, Reflection of the Dead, a premiere last August 27th. What can you tell us about these singles and about the video done for a Reflection of the Dead and the work done with Joel Nilsson of Filmson?
I'm really, really, really happy to present this. Still sounds like an old Pale Horse, but it's a new leaf, fresh sound. And it was actually the label's idea, my A&R guy's idea, to release the songs in that order. And I agreed with him, and he said, I think you should do the video for Reflections of the Dead. And I said, you know what? I agree with you too, because that song is just so dark and doomy and heavy. And I was really happy with the results of how people responded to Believe in Something, which is a little bit of a difference. It sounds like APH&E, but it's a little bit, just a little bit more metal than what we normally do. And I just wanted to, like, you know, it just came out like that, the song. And I was really happy on how everybody responded to it. And then Shards of Glass came out in July. And that's the song that here in the United States they've been using on radio also. And that's definitely a more hooky, catchy song that probably is good for radio also because it might attract other types of listeners. And again, I was super happy with the response for that song. The label loved it, the press loved it, everybody, the fans loved it, and I was really pretty excited because I'm always concerned about maybe some rejection or people not liking it. And the video with Reflections of the Dead was done by Joel Nielsen, and it was assisted with Tony Jelevanich. And these guys were the same guys that did the previous video, Fell in My Hole. Okay. And the video was filmed in Sweden.
That's a great video as well, I must say.
Yes, they were both filmed in Sweden, and me and Joel, I kind of told him what I was seeing, and we went back and forth a little bit, and to me this new video is just so incredibly, it's so awesome. It's my favorite video to date. I love it. The actress that he used really was great.
Swedish, no?
Yes.
Very beautiful lady. I was wondering who she is.
Yeah, it was in Sweden. It was filmed in the forest just outside of Gothenburg.
Okay.
And everyone that was involved was, yes, Swedish. The actress was Swedish, obviously. And I like this kind of, there's something unique looking about the forests and the trees in Sweden. There's something very pure but very haunting about the types of pine trees that are in Sweden, the way they look. And, you know, the forests here are beautiful too, but we don't have this type of tree, this type of pine tree. And so I had suggested to him, maybe we can do some scenes in the forests. And he's such a brilliant director that he can do so much with so little. And he's very creative. And he depicted the story of what the song is about really well. And it's a very proud moment with this video that it came out the way it did.
The diehard fans and for new fans, what can you tell us about this new offering?
It's definitely much more gritty. It has a real retro, dirty sound in it. Even though it retains a lot of the root elements of A Pale Horse Named Death's music, there is some new types of attitudes and orchestration and instrumentation. You know, there's more piano, there's orchestra bells, there's some strings in one of the songs I brought. The album is definitely more demonic, more even further on the dark side, which is what I wanted to do.
I mean, just listen to the 3 first promotional single. I'm very convinced that this is much more darker than the last album in 2019. Yes, talking about this Infernum in Terra, the band's 4th studio album by A Pale Horse Named Death, and has been mastered by Maur Appelbaum, who also worked with Fate No More, Meatloaf, Yes, Sepultura, Hellforce, etc. at Maur Appelbaum Mastering in California, USA. How was the writing and recording been? And how did you wind up at Maur Appelbaum for the mastering?
I started sketching the record in January, February of 2020. And so then the pandemic here in New York, we got shut down March 17th, and worked on the record, wrote a bunch of sketches, and then I stopped and walked away for like 3 months because that's what I do. I go through my moods, and I walked away. And then in the fall, I actually ended up writing like 4 more songs and then creating all the soundscapes. And Maur Appelbaum mastered When the World Becomes Undone. So I already had a relationship with him. So Infernum in Terra is the first album where I did everything myself. I recorded, engineered, and mixed the album. So I contacted him and I said, I'm working on another record. I'd like for you to master it. He's based in Los Angeles, but fortunately with the technology that we have, I was able to send via FTP, send the mixed tracks to him. So as I was working on the songs, though, I was sending him some music, and he thought it was incredibly great. And he was like, this sounds a lot better than the previous record, because one of the issues we had with the previous record was it was a little bit too dark sounding and the vocals weren't loud enough. And I wanted to make sure that didn't happen on this record. So he worked with me as well, back and forth, giving me his objective opinions. And he's a great guy. He really cares about his clients and the music he does and masters. And he will not just do it once and settle just so he can get paid. He will work and work and work and work until it's right.
Back and forth.
Yes.
Okay, if I may ask, where did you mix and master the 2019 one?
Recorded most of the record here at my house, but then it got mixed. Had Eric Morgan mixed it, and then it was mastered by Maur Appelbaum.
Okay. Okay. So you already worked with Maur?
Yes, I worked with Maur Appelbaum on the previous record, When the World Becomes Undone.
Talking about this new album, in how many formats will this be available, Sal?
So it'll be in digital format. for down CD digipack with a booklet, and also then double vinyl. It's available.
Okay, I mean, what an outstanding cover artwork that was created by Kelvin Durang of Serpent Tusk Studio in Dublin, Ireland. How much of an input have you put out on this one, and how did you get in contact with Kelvin to create this masterpiece?
Kelvin's an incredible artist. He contacted me when I kind of put the word out there that I was looking for an artist for the fourth album. Although I did offer the fourth album to the previous artist that did the 3 albums, they respectfully declined. So I was like, okay, I'll find someone else, and maybe this is all meant to be, because I was kind of looking to have a fresh look anyway. It was maybe time. So when I put the word out there, I had like about 20 different artists contact me, and I liked the style. What I was looking for was exactly what Kelvin's style was. And so he contacted me. He sent me a bunch of his work that he did, and I just liked it. I said, I think I'm going to go with you. And I told him the title. I said, this is the title, Infernum in Terra. I'm going to let you think about it and take your time and show me what you come up with as far as ideas. So he's like a week later, he started sending me some sketches, because he did everything basically by hand. He sent me some sketches, and it was the very bare bones of what the cover would be. And I just loved it because it was different. It was fresh. And it was time to have these kinds of new colors and approaches. And after so many years, I felt it was a good idea, and it was really necessary to turn the page and have some kind of new outlook and new presentation for the fan.
But not to take any credit of the 2019 cover artwork, which is fantastic as well. This is phenomenal.
Yeah. Again, I had a few issues with the 2019 release. One, I even had some agents tell me that the cover was boring. So I felt dissatisfied with the cover. I was like, how many records am I going to put out with a horse head on it? So I felt it was a good idea that it just ended up getting a new artist anyway. And what this guy did, he brought this biblical type of feel to the record, but it was very, very satanic at the same time. And then we talked about, at first, the figure in the middle of the album cover was holding like normal upright cross. And I said, look, why don't we invert the cross and put the horseshoe on the other end and call it the Lucifix, which is what we created, a new thing. So, and at the same time, told him the titles of the songs, also what was going on. I gave him some rough ideas of some title ideas. And so this all influenced this almost biblical religious figure that is yet in the form of something evil. And to draw these people around, these villagers, basically they look like apostles, and there's some scared and some of that are interested, and incredible.
I believe they are disciples.
Maybe they're disciples.
Yeah.
But you could see some are scared, and then some are interested or enamored by the figure. Wait till you see, like, if you get the vinyl and you open up the vinyl, right, because it's double vinyl, there's a completely huge piece of artwork inside the vinyl that he drew that is completely insane also. And then the digipack, the CD booklet, has all this 15th century style, like demonic tapestry engraving type of artwork. It's off the hook. Really, this guy just, I'm definitely going to talk to him when I do another record. That's for sure.
Okay, to go to the last part of this interview, Sal and Infernum in Terra will be released September 24, 2021 via Long Branch Record SPV. Will there be, I hope so, an album release party? If it's so, when and where will this be?
No, we don't have anything planned because, number one, I live in the country. I don't live near the city. And number two, in New York City, things seem to be going a little bit backwards with this COVID pandemic. And that's something I'm a little concerned about. I am vaccinated, but still, I have some band members that don't want to be going anywhere. So we do not have, I might do something on some radio stations. I might do some Zoom stuff. But that's about the best I can do. I think the world has changed quite a bit. I don't know when it's going to be okay
So sad. I mean, even though that some bands already stopped touring and things, and I believe that there was some kind of chance that you guys can still do this album release party.
Yeah, I thought so too, but no one's come to me with any ideas, and at the same time, I just don't know. It seemed like for a moment things were getting a little better, but now the increase in people being sick has gone up very high again in New York City. In fact, in New York City, they're doing the same thing like they do in France and Italy, where you have to have like a passport to go into a restaurant. They're doing all this crazy stuff now.
Okay.
People are comfortable being in a hot bar with no ventilation. I don't know.
And the thing is that even some place, a proof of being a vaccination are required.
Yes. New York City, they just passed, you have to have proof of vaccination to go anywhere.
Okay.
Exactly what they're doing like in France. They're doing the same thing in France where nobody's allowed to go anywhere without vaccination. So they're doing the same thing in New York City. So I don't know, like even if I arranged a release party, I don't know how many people would come because there are too many problems. Because you have about 50%, there's a problem here in America where 50% of the people are vaccinated, then there's the other 50% that they don't want to get vaccinated. So this is why we have a problem. And it's a very crazy time. And honestly, best thing I could do is make more music.
Okay, seeing that some bands has already touring and even some summer fest has taken place on smaller quantities, are you ready to schedule anything for the rest of 2021? And how about 2022 as part of this new great album, Sal?
I think the consideration is maybe in the summer of 2022. I thought I was going to come to Europe in maybe February originally, if you would have asked me 6 months ago, but it doesn't seem like that's possible because there's a few problems going on also in Europe in regards to all the bands that were canceled in 2020 and 2021 are all in line to play in 2022. So there's no space. There's no availability with the festivals. There's no open slots. And then the other problem is we have Brexit. Brexit from the UK fucked everything up because now they require bands to get 2 separate equipment rental hire. So I used to fly into England, do some shows in England, and then I would come to Europe and play Europe and use all the same stuff. Now you have to do 2 separate things, which cost more money. So that's another problem with the UK. So I'm hoping that maybe July, August of 2022, I could do, if there's availability. Otherwise, I'll have to wait for the festivals in 2023.
Yeah, I guess so, because all the big festivals, summer festivals, are already booked with the same 2020 lineup.
Yes, they're done. Look at, for example, Hellfest in Clisson, France. They have the 2020 and 2021 lineups playing all in 1 week in 2022. All these festivals, Wacken, I think Wacken is now 2 years they've canceled. So now next year, Wacken is completely full. There's no available space to get your band on the festival. You have to wait till 2023 if you're lucky. So that's the other problem that this pandemic has caused, which has caused an enormous competition for available space for the bands to play shows. And it's caused a lot of problems with making things happen the way we were used to doing things years ago.
Believe me, I really hope that you guys still can get on tour for 2022 and the fans can get you guys to see, especially playing this new album.
I know. It's a shame that this is the way things are going right now. It's hard because I have every interview, every journalist and radio person is asking me the same thing, and I can't give any kind of good answers at the moment. I have 2 different agents that I talk to, and my European agent said the same thing, said everything is full. And I'm hoping that maybe I could do some USA stuff. Or maybe, I don't know if I can get to Europe in 2022, but we'll see if something changes.
Yeah, but I think this is the time that you have to make a quick decision and not focus on the summer festivals, but just focus on the tour that the band can do.
Right. That's what I told my agent. I said, if you could do something in July of 2022, that would be great.
You still will get all the venues available, that are closed, that they don't have any shows going on at the time.
Maybe, but you'd be surprised. All the venues are full too. That's the problem. It's just the whole year 2022 is a little bit of a mess. You know what? Let's all hope that for the best and that, we all see each other sooner than later.
Okay. I saw some very beautiful t-shirt with the album cover artwork. Please explain us about the different merchandises that you guys have put out available.
You can go with the new shirts at the moment the record company has available, and you can also get the merchandise merchandise and the albums off of napalmrecords.com, because they're part of SPV also now, and the Long Branch Records shop, lbrshop.com, and you can also go to spventertainment.com, and they're selling, the bundles where you can get just the shirt or you can get the vinyl with the shirt. We have our merchandise store too, but we have like the other shirts from the previous album only available at the moment, and we plan on getting some new shirts in soon for the fall. But since the record company has made like 2 different designs and they're pushing that with the record, we figured we'd wait a little bit and let everybody get those first. There's also the links for all of this stuff. If you go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/APHND, there's links in the posts for ordering the vinyl and going to the shop and ordering the shirts and stuff as well.
Sal, to end this great interview, the microphone of Metal Messiah Radio International is all yours to thank whomever you want to thank.
I'd like to thank DJ Vampire and Metal Messiah Radio for having me on today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I really enjoyed it.
Very welcome.
And I appreciate the support.
Okay, whomever you want to thank, Sal, that has collaborated you for doing this new album.
I'd like to thank SPV Records, Long Branch Records, for always being behind me and supporting me. I would love to thank my beautiful family, my beautiful wife, Jacqueline, and my 3 children, Elizabeth, Francesca, and Josephine, for always being there for me. I'd like to thank Maor Applebaum for working with me side by side with this album and creating such a killer result. And I'd like to thank all the fans around the world for being by our side for 11 years now and supporting us, because without the fans, there is no band or any records. You can't do anything if we don't have you on our side. So I thank you very much to all the fans around the world.
Sal, kindly ask you, when you see the rest of the band member, please say hello to them for me, to Eddie, Joe, to Oddie, and to Chris.
I will. See them soon.
Sal, once again, I'm very appreciate you accepting doing this interview. I want to thank you very, very much. It has been a great pleasure talking to you. Yes, like I always say, metal on. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.